make all kinds of horrible theories up in my head, conspiracy theories and everything else, but it just seemed a little convenient that there was no water, and and that the wind conditions were right, and that there are people ready and willing and able to start fires. And are they commissioned to do so, or are they just acting on their own volition? I don't know. But they seem pretty well equipped, some of these people that they're catching.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions, Mel. Mel, a message tonight.
I'll sift through the remains of my place and see if I can find any clues for you.
Mel Gibson has fired off yet another blistering strike at Gavin Newsom, and this time the impact is even more explosive than before. Their fierce clash, which has been boiling since last year's catastrophic California wildfires, shows absolutely no sign of calming down. Gibson, whose Pacific Palisades home was completely destroyed in the blaze, is now urgently urging Californians to replace Newsom with a leader who can truly steer the state forward. His latest fiery remarks have erupted across social media, triggering some of the most dramatic, emotional, and unusually frantic reactions we've seen from Newsom yet.
Mel, any message from you to Governor Newsom or Karen Bass tonight?
Spread what's on her job.
It seems that the governor of California is far more concerned with keeping his hair well combed than he is with looking after the people who depend on him. That truly irritates Mel Gibson. Nomi's extreme obsession with his polished image makes it seem hard to find a moment when his shiny, slicked-back hairstyle isn't gleaming like some spotlight display meant for a red carpet debut. Meanwhile, the entire state is collapsing due to extreme pressure, overwhelming taxes, endless bureaucratic roadblocks, street disturbances, a rise in homelessness, communities inundated with trash, worry, and exhaustion. But does Newsom seem concerned? Not at all. He is too busy admiring himself in the mirror, whereas Californians work hard, endure hardships, and plead for someone who actually pays attention.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is now calling his city's homeless encampments unacceptable, which is odd since he's the guy who, made them acceptable. Turning sidewalks into red carpet events for drug addicts, thieves, and unemployed CNN anchors.
They launched a full-scale assault on Gavin Newsom, accusing him of sending California into a dark and chaotic spiral with his reckless and strongly denounced woke policies. They argued that Newsom was effectively using homelessness as a political spectacle, seeing it as something to draw attention to rather than deal with, rather than just ignoring the problem. Instead of demolishing dangerous camps or offering real opportunities for rehabilitation, he continued to create more tent sets in the middle of destitute communities, turning entire districts into scenes of complete devastation. The outcome was shocking. Once beautiful cities were transformed into outdoor slums that were unrecognizable due to trash-filled streets, scattered needles, and an oppressive feeling of fear.
Make all kinds of horrible theories up in my head, conspiracy theories and everything else, but it just seemed a little convenient that there was no water, and and that the wind conditions were right, and that there are people ready and willing and able to start fires. And are they commissioned to do so, or are they just acting on their own volition? I don't know. But they seem pretty well equipped, some of these people that they're catching.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions, Mel. Mel, a message tonight.
I'll sift through the remains of my place and see if I can find any clues for you.
Gavin Newsom is alleged to have ordered the destruction of a dam that would have stopped or at least slowed the deadly Palisades fire. This decision astonished many Californians who later learned why it was made: to save one endangered fish and receive recognition from a few local indigenous groups. Turning a serious safety issue into a symbolic move meant to enhance his reputation instead than protecting real communities. That dam may have provided firefighters with essential water supplies, sparing homes, wildlife, and lives that would never be recovered. Instead, Newsom sought attention with a stunning environmental gesture that offered no real protection, putting symbolism over safety and image above duty.
Welcome to a new segment called Gavin's Hands. He keeps his hands in motion and his hair full of lotion. True, Gavin's views may be idiotic, but his hands moves, well, they're hypnotic. California Governor Newsom's new podcast is out. It's available wherever fine hair care products are sold.
The situation spiraled into full-blown chaos when investigators determined that parts of the Pacific Palisades fires may have been started by local teenagers and possibly a few transient campers. But the real shock came from what officers found during the arrests. fire accelerants, protective gear, and ignition tools, items far too advanced for ordinary campers or curious kids. The disturbing collection made the fires appear deliberate, as if the suspects had been instructed, trained, or even paid by someone with a hidden motive to spark the destruction. That revelation pushed Mel Gibson's fears into overdrive. He now suspects the disaster may be part of a calculated political maneuver, a manufactured crisis designed for influence, manipulation, or access to government funding, and he refuses to give Newsom the benefit of the doubt. To Gibson, it fits an unsettling pattern where tragedy becomes a convenient pathway to power.
Ponders why Dems lost.
We lost the popular vote and we lost the electoral vote. We got crushed. And we need to be humble about that, and we need to have some grace, and we need to understand why. Was it because of the incumbency penalty? Was it because of inflation? Was it because of interest rates? Was it because of immigration? Was it because we were too, quote unquote,
Kennedy, I think the answer is yes.
Was it because of Israel? Yes. Interest rates? Yes.
He claims that it is meant to encourage in-depth conversations with those who challenge him or whom he claims to admire. But the polished message he promotes doesn't feel at all like reality. This is unrelated to having an open dialogue. It's a painstakingly designed advertising machine designed to refine his public image, measure audience reaction, and progressively set the stage for a future presidential campaign without being openly acknowledged. Every guest, every question, and every polished moment will be carefully chosen to protect his narrative, reduce criticism, and highlight just the elements that give him a perceptive, forward-thinking appearance. With every frame and every remark pointing toward ambition rather than honesty, the podcast feels more like a platform for self-promotion than a genuine relationship.
the issues of audits? I mean, I was commenting when I was with President Trump. We talked about the high-speed rail, and there was some discussion before the public presentation on high-speed rail last week around audits. I think we've been audited 100 times there. Happy to see another audit. At a certain point, you have audit fatigue. I think at the end of the day, people want outcomes and they want results for their money spent. Audits for audit's sake service no one, just services headlines. What people want is problems solved, and they want to see it. They want to believe it. They don't want to hear it, and they don't want to hear excuses. But
all Californians have to offer are a few remote tracks, endless construction delays, and an ever-expanding mountain of justifications. Costs are still going through the roof. Deadlines are extended into the future. Additionally, because there is no longer any sense of actual accountability, the residents are angry and looking for answers. Nothing was changed, nothing was disclosed, and nothing was wrong. But this time, Nome was under increasing pressure because a true independent audit may finally expose the ineptitude, confusion, and potential corruption hidden deep beneath one of California's most expensive infrastructure disasters.
In 2019, I think Newsom said, I'm going to take care of the forests and maintain the forests and do all that kind of stuff. He didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything. And then on top of that, they cut the water off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all funny. And then I think all our tax dollars probably went for Gavin's hair gel. I don't know, but it's like, it's sad. It's like the place is just on fire.
Well, the whole state is just so poorly.
He explained how living in a place that had once been full of opportunity, inventiveness, and boundless imagination was now nearly impossible, saying that California was practically untenable due to exorbitant costs, persistent overregulation, and the strong influence of cancel culture, which seemed to restrict free speech at every turn. Once successful in Los Angeles, Rogan now utilizes his massive platform to draw attention to how much the state has declined. His story is by no means the only one. Hundreds of people have made the decision to leave, voting with their feet to escape what they see as the rapid erosion of culture and freedom. He fled for more reasons than just taxes. He departed because he felt that the California he had previously loved was vanished, that individual liberties were dwindling, and that creativity was fading. As a result, a lot of people started searching for a place where they could live, breathe, and create without feeling constrained by constant limitations.
Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have already proven their incompetence and poor leadership during the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, as we experience rampant lawlessness and civil unrest, it's never been more clear they're unable to respond effectively and responsibly during calamity. Whether it's sheer incompetence or outright malevolence, the reality is stark. California's in a state of turmoil, and I ask my fellow Angelenos, why are Gavin Newsom
and Karen Bass still in office.
California's once thriving cities have crumbled into bleak landscapes marked by tent-lined streets, shuttered shops, and families escaping rising homelessness, crime, inflation, and an ever-expanding government that keeps making things worse, all while so-called progressive policies deliver flashy headlines but no real answers to the crises growing by the day. After years of feeling unheard, longtime resident Mel Gibson has finally hit his limit and joined a rapidly expanding wave of people demanding accountability. Californians aren't just frustrated anymore. They're outraged, fed up with leaders who chase cameras and praise instead of genuinely helping those who are struggling. That anger is quickly transforming into a powerful movement demanding real change, honest leadership, and actual safety, proving that the public is ready to fight for a future built on meaningful results rather than polished speeches or practiced smiles.
Now, I understand you offered Gavin Newsom help in handling his unrest. I understand that didn't go over too well.
Yeah, they accused us of trying to, quote, escalate. But I can tell you what escalates the situation is being a sanctuary state. What escalates the situation is tolerating the looting and the rioting and the burning of these vehicles and attacks on law enforcement. And we do it just the opposite in Florida. When the 2020 riots were happening in Minneapolis, California, all these other places, we didn't let that happen in Florida. But we also recognize, like, this is what the left does. So we did landmark anti-rioting legislation.
Gavin Newsom could learn a great deal from what Ron DeSantis accomplished in Florida, where firm anti-riot laws and swift, decisive action kept peace, safety, and stability intact during moments that could have spiraled out of control. DeSantis moved quickly, deploying officers before unrest had a chance to spread, while Newsom's reluctance to back law enforcement, his lenient crime policies, and his focus on political appearances instead of protecting residents left California disorganized, vulnerable, and overwhelmed by rising chaos. The contrast between the two states couldn't be clearer. Florida stayed steady while California faltered under conflicting priorities and poor decisions. DeSantis's approach wasn't about theatrics. It focused on real outcomes, consistent enforcement, and rebuilding trust by prioritizing community safety. If Newsom truly cared about Californians, he would set aside the performance and embrace proven methods that restore security and stability. That wraps up today's story. If you found it compelling, remember to like and subscribe for more surprising updates because this saga is far from finished.